Ever feel like you're running a circus, but all the acrobats are also your responsibility? And somehow, you're also expected to tame the lions, juggle the finances, and ensure the clowns don't unionize? If so, you are not alone. Many leaders in human services feel overwhelmed by the demands on every side. We would do just about anything for the individuals we serve, and yet we still feel like it's a crazy circus. But what if there was a better way? Hello, Difference Maker, and welcome to IDD Leader, the podcast that's all about helping human service organizations retain and grow their workforce using behavioral science. I am your host, Nate Beers. Let's dive in. In the IDD field, we talk a lot about person-centered care for the people we serve. But what happens when we use that same philosophy for our staff and for ourselves? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how a person-centered approach to employees can reduce your stress and improve your staff retention without becoming just one more item on your long leadership to-do list. Let's start with this classic irony. As you already know, person-centered care is a non-negotiable for the individuals we serve. We're customizing everything. Dietary restrictions, schedules, daily and weekly, the behavior support plans, the individualized support plans, the crisis plans, and just about every step of the way, we are doing our best to have it be person-centered. What will serve this individual so that they can live their best life ever? And that's awesome. But then when it comes to staff, so often we have cookie-cutter solutions that we turn to, almost as if by default. Oh, people seem stressed and kind of burned out. Let's buy pizza for everybody. Oh, you need some more support? Here's a one-size-fits-all training video from 2007. Oh, you want some recognition? Well, here, enjoy our generic DSP Appreciation Week t-shirt from last year. That'll do the trick. Oh, man, I remember hearing a program director describe her frustration when, after spending countless hours coordinating the biggest DSP Appreciation Week event ever, I'm talking raffles, food, the whole 9 yards, then the response from the staff was at best lukewarm. It was kind of a flop. And predictably, it did not have any impact on the agency's high turnover. Yikes. What went wrong? Well, for starters, she didn't actually ask the staff what they wanted. She and a couple other leaders planned it, but there really wasn't staff input, and there certainly wasn't staff buy-in. Some people wanted flexible scheduling. Others wanted things like mentorship, which of course goes beyond a staff appreciation week, but that's where they were feeling it. And there were a few others that just wanted a supervisor who wouldn't ignore them. Secondly, a staff appreciation week does not change the overall picture of what it's like to work there. And no, it's not going to improve staff retention. The lesson I think that she was learning in those moments is that you can't really reward people or show your appreciation if you don't know what they care about. And throwing phrases like, "We appreciate you," with all kinds of messaging at people does not make them want to work there any longer, and it doesn't really make them feel appreciated. So what does a person-centered approach look like? Let's start with the relational aspect. Being a DSP is not just a job. It's a lot more than a job. In its demands and what it requires of people, and because it's really just kind of a unique thing. Typically, staff aren't leaving a DSP position because the pay was low or they had to work hard. I mean, yeah, there might be some that leave for that, but they're typically weeding themselves out very quickly. But people that are leaving after, say, 2 months or 3 months, a lot of times they're leaving because they don't feel valued in all that they are giving. A bad supervisor pretty much means you're guaranteeing that person's going to be working on their exit plan. So people quit relationships, not the jobs. Secondly, rewards have to be individualized. We wouldn't dream of trying to have the same exact expectations for all the individuals we serve at all the various levels of ability and interests and everything else. So why would we do that for our staff? Well, hold on. Pause right there. It sounds like I'm saying we shouldn't have the same expectations for everybody. That is kind of what I'm saying. There should be the same minimum expectations for everybody. But here's where I'm going with this. If you were to think of 3 staff members right now, do you know what motivates each of them? If not, that's your first step. Yes, some of the basic expectations would be the same for everybody. But beyond that, the approach from their direct supervisor, the rewards or incentives they can be working towards, these things need to be individualized to the different staff members on your workforce. We can't just talk to everybody the same and expect great results. Okay, we'll keep going on that, don't worry. The third aspect of person-centered, right? It's got autonomy and competence. We're looking at strengths-based or competency-based, and we're trying to promote autonomy. Staff want to have some control over something, whether it's how they're doing parts of their job, their schedule, their career path. Giving choices is a way to help your staff stay there longer. For example, one provider that had very low turnover, they were great at letting DSPs bring their other skills and interests into the job. I can think of walking into a most festively decorated room I'd seen in a long time that a DSP who was kind of crafty just loved doing. And so they gave her space and encouraged her to do that. And she even found ways to involve the individuals she was serving in some of that craftiness. That same agency had another DSP who loved going on outings. They paired her with individuals that loved going on outings, and she took them on certain types of adventures they'd never been on. Overnight camping. 2 of these individuals had never been overnight camping, and here she was booking it, leading a trip to go overnight camping in a cabin at a state park 2 hours away. Huge win for the individuals, but also a huge win for that staff because she's able to bring her own passions and interests into the job. Obviously within reason, but still, that's huge. So creating some autonomy and leaning into the competency that your staff already have, it's huge, and it's person-centered. Okay, now let's just flip the mirror for a minute. As in, by the way, person-centered applies to you too. Directors, executives, they get burned out because they can also end up feeling like they're just cogs in this bigger system. And sometimes doing what it takes to grow, to achieve that success, it ends up leaving leaders much more stressed and unhappy than they were before they'd achieved that last level of success. Usually when that happens, it's because the extra push that it took to get that growth or to get that success, it was completely unsustainable. And if leaders aren't careful, they end up resenting the very thing that they worked so hard to achieve. So just like the frontline workforce and the individuals we serve, leaders also need a person-centered approach. Leaders are human beings, not human doings. If the act of reading over your upcoming weekly schedule raises your blood pressure, then it's time to make a change. Let me share for a minute about a leader I know who was able to get off of some of this, crazy circus train thing going on. And they were able to stop microwaving their coffee 3 times a day. He was drowning in stress. He had like the classic book title, Death by Meetings. He had endless compliance conversations, and he was constantly putting out fires. But he didn't just decide to go on a self-care retreat. He crafted systems that made his job better. Here's what it looked like. More delegation of non-essential tasks. Better gatekeeping on who handled urgent but not truly crisis-level issues. I'm going to say that one again because it's pretty huge. Better gatekeeping on who handled urgent but not truly crisis-level issues. And then the other part of his system was he started scheduling time to connect with peers in the industry, and, wait for it, he rewarded himself for wins. Maybe you can relate to that. The takeaway here is that burnout's not just a DSP problem. And if you, as a leader in your organization, with whatever role you're in, if you're miserable, you better believe that's trickling down to your managers, the staff, and everyone around you. It's important that we are person-centered with ourselves as well. Now, not in a way where we are taking our lessons of leadership from the Michael Scott School of Leadership, which was from The Office, where he's just an insecure leader trying to make everyone revolve around him. I'm not talking about it on those levels, obviously. But if we disregard our own needs, then we're going to have problems, and it's going to affect everyone that's working around us and for us. So what's the fix? Here are some clear action steps that you could take. Step 1, ask staff what actually motivates them, and then write it down. You could use a quick survey to do this, or sometimes people just don't even open their inbox or don't even click the email, so they might not fill out that survey. You could just walk around and ask, or have your supervisors walking around and asking, hey, what makes a great shift for you? Or what kind of recognition do you actually care about? Or what's one thing that would make this job easier? If you don't know, and if your supervisors don't know what they want, then you're all just guessing. So stop the guesswork, ask, and then truly listen. Step 2, drop the equal treatment guilt. Use equity instead. Not everyone needs the same thing. Not all of your frontline supervisors need the same thing. Not all of your staff need the same thing. Some really need mentorship. Some really need a more hands-on, active approach. Others, they need space and encouragement, and that's it. You can give them a lot more rope on that line. Some love the public praise, but not everybody loves the same thing. For example, there could be a DSP who absolutely just lights up whenever you praise them in front of the group. And in general, praising in front of others is a good practice. However, there could be another DSP on the team that they would rather listen to Frozen's Let It Go on 4 hours of endless repeat rather than being called out, even for something good that they did, in a public setting. Because they find it embarrassing, aversive. It's negative for them. As their supervisor, you got to know the difference. And the same is true for your managers and for every level of the organization. Step 3 is give DSPs more control over their jobs. If you let them weigh in on scheduling, on how the shifts are done, even their own professional growth, you're going to really get a lot more buy-in and a lot more engagement, and they are going to like their jobs a lot more, i.e. stay with your company longer. Some agencies, we talked about how the one agency lets DSPs really bring in different kind of passion projects into the job. Another thing that some agencies do is they let DSPs sort of specialize. Some have more of a medical focus. Some become peer mentors for the newly hired DSPs. Some are just great with the more highly behavioral individuals. They thrive in that kind of a setting. So giving choices really will bring about greater engagement and greater enjoyment of the job. Step 4, recognize and reward your leadership team so that they don't burn out. Some of the ways that you could do this would be create a peer recognition system. Who's giving you and your team positive feedback? Here's another idea. You could set a bare minimum reward for yourself weekly. The idea behind this is that even when things are chaotic, when the circus is in full force, that you might really still need some small guaranteed moments that are going to help you reset and relax. And you can apply this to your whole team as well, your whole leadership team, I mean. If you're just waiting for big wins or when things calm down, then those rewards might never happen. So here's what it could look like. It could look like a no matter what 15-minute coffee break in the afternoon. Don't bother me. I'm not looking at emails. Don't interrupt me. Please no staff crises for these 15 minutes. I just know if I'm in your shoes that I'm going to get a 15-minute coffee break to just reset for a minute. Or it could look like creating a Friday 5-minute win list where and this might feel silly at first, but where I write down 5 good things that happened this week. And over time, even though it starts out feeling silly, it might actually shift my attitude when I start to see, especially if I keep this on kind of a running list, like a tally it all on the same document, I'm going to see all these wins that are happening and not just the mountain that's ahead, but how far I've already climbed when I look back. Another thing you could do, create a weekly 15-minute wins meeting. Have all your leaders, or as many are available, hop on Zoom one morning each week, and everybody shares one win per week. Doing so could really change the tone of your whole leadership culture. Okay. So let me just review those real quick. What are some of those action items that you could take to apply person-centered care to your staff? Ask staff what motivates them. Write down those answers. Secondly, drop the equal treatment, use equity. In other words, individualize the rewards, individualize the care, individualize the approach to the staff. And you might have to train your frontline supervisors, your managers, everyone else to do this. Number 3, give DSPs more control over their jobs, increasing autonomy. Okay, number 4, recognize and reward your leadership team. Wow. Well, we've kind of covered a lot in this episode, and who knew, right? We already know person-centered care works for individuals, but of course it works for leaders and for our staff too. So this would be, if I were to say, like, leave you with one action item, I know I just gave you 4 ideas, but it would just be to pick one of those 4 steps that I just mentioned and apply it this week. Don't wait for a good time to do it. Don't overthink it. Just take action. That will move things in the right direction. And listen, do you want help creating a retention-focused culture? Because if you do, I would love for you to grab my free guide, Top 10 Questions and Answers to help you solve DSP turnover. You can download it totally for free. It's at iddleader.com/top10, TOPTEN. It's yours. Go for it. Grab it. And if you found this episode helpful, would you hit the share button, send it to a colleague. Send it to someone on your team, or send it to someone at another agency that you know that they are dealing with a circus too. You're not the only ringleader around. The other thing you could do, rate or review it on Apple or Spotify, and that just helps it show up more for other people to find it on those different players. Well, until next time, here's to you, Difference Maker. Keep up the amazing work.